Hello everybody, can you see me? Just give a thumbs up because I don't know who is here and all that. Oh, so I see some waves, that means it should be okay. No? Just show me a thumbs up so I know. Okay, Veena says I can see. Namaste. So, hello. So we will start with Guru Mantra. So join your hands. Inhale. गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. So welcome all of you. Today is Thursday, a very special day for yogis because Thursday in the yogic tradition is understood as or called as Guruvar, and Var means day or turn, and Guru means the guide. Okay, so I usually do Instagram lives on a Thursday as an offering to all the seekers out there, and I just share whatever I have to share. Okay, so today I thought of just going through some shlokas or some paragraphs of a very important scripture of Adi Shankaracharya. If you don't know Adi Shankaracharya, then you should Google Adi Shankaracharya and do some study, because he was a mystic, a scholar, a philosopher, a saint, a path maker, a reformist, all that can be said about an inspiration he was. He is said to have resurrected the Sanatana tradition, the Vedic tradition, in the early medieval times, around 9th century or so. The reason I took up this scripture for our reading is because it is a very important scripture in the Advaita Vedanta tradition. Now you must have heard of Vedanta. Those who are into yoga here, they must have heard of Vedanta. Now Vedanta actually means Upanishads. But what has happened is, over last 1,000 years, or little more than 1,000 years, the teachings of Upanishads have been interpreted in different ways. One of the ways in which the teachings of Upanishad have been interpreted is the Advaita Vedantic school, which was founded by Adi Shankaracharya, the person we are talking about today. Advaita Vedanta means, according to this school of thought, everything is single consciousness. Okay, and if we see variety, if we see disparity, if we see division, it is only because of our ignorance and not because of the actual nature of the world. Okay, so I would like to be brief. So in that tradition, the tradition of Advaita Vedanta, they have, when the students study in the Advaita Vedanta school, they have many training manuals, you could say. They are called Prakarana Grantha. Prakarana Grantha means training manuals, where lot of fundamental stuff is given. Okay. Now, Viveka Chudamani, the scripture that we are looking at today, is one of the Prakarana Granthas of Advaita Vedanta. Sorry if I am using too much terminology, but I have to give you the fundamental basis of it. Okay, Prakarana Grantha means preparatory manuals. Just remember this. Preparatory manual of the Advaita Vedanta tradition. Okay, so the other traditions like say the Tantrics or the Shaktas or the Hatha Yogis may not use this scripture. So what we will do is I have just handpicked, cherry picked some paragraphs and we will read through them because I personally find this book very, very beautiful. There are over 500 paragraphs, okay, shlokas as they say. So it's an extensive treatise, extensive book. Ideally, it is said that Shankaracharya wrote it, but then many scholars have their own opinions. But in the tradition, it is understood that Adi Shankara himself wrote it. Okay, this much we need to know. Now, every scripture, mainly all scriptures, start with something called as Mangalacharanam. Mangalacharana means Mangalacharana means like a invocatory prayer. Okay, so when you read the scriptures, you will see that the first paragraph, or sometimes a lot of paragraphs, the writer will invoke the Guru or the God, or whatever the case may be, just to, like a good beginning, an auspicious start, so to say. All right, Mangalacharanam. Mangala means auspicious. Acharanam means a beginning in this context. So I will sing out basically the Mangalacharanam. Now the thing is, I am not going to sing everything because these scriptures are to be sung in a particular chanda. Okay, chandas means a particular prosody or a meter. So I am not going to sing it in the meter because this scripture has different meters in it. So I will just read it out to you. But the first one, just to give you a feel of the meter or the tone or the tune, I will sing it to you. The first one I am singing, the next I may not sing. Okay, so Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Sadgurum Pranatosmyaham. So here Shankaracharya is invoking somebody called as Govinda. Now, scholars say that Govinda is his guru. Govindacharya was Shankaracharya's guru. But Govinda also means Krishna. So it could be that he is either invoking his guru or he is invoking God. Perhaps both. Because many times you will see that in Sanskrit scriptures like this, they have little tricks, Sometimes they will have sarcasm, sometimes they will have a little inside joke. So perhaps here Shankaracharya is using one term for both, because in the tradition the Guru is equated to God. So I personally feel there is no two ways about it, that even though Shankaracharya has mentioned only Govinda, which ideally is Krishna, he is also invoking his Guru. Okay, so he says Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tama Gocharam. So like he says, I invoke that Guru or that God who is beyond all schools, all philosophies. Okay, he's agochara. Gochara means transcended all these name and words and forms and arguments and syllogism. I am invoking a guru like this who has transcended all these things. Govindam Paramanandam, the Govinda who has reached the Paramananda state, Ananda, bliss state. Sat Gurum, such a guru, it could be God or it could be his own guru. Pranatosmyaham, I pranami, I salute such a guru. Pranatosmi aham. Okay, so like I said, he is invoking his guru or the God in this first verse. Okay, so let's move on to the next. Now this one, and those of you who have studied with me may have heard me say this many times. In the third shloka of this scripture, Viveka Chudamani, Shankaracharya is quoting three blessings that a human has or may have. Okay, so I will read out the Sanskrit verse. Durlabham tarayame vaitad devanugraha hetukam. Okay, I will explain it later. Now listen carefully. Manushyatvam, mumukshutvam, mahapurusha sanshrayah. So what he is saying is, and be very careful because this is very, very practical. Okay, and nowadays they all talk about gratitude, gratitude exercise or remembering gratitude. There are so many scientific research also done which says that having gratitude helps calm down the mind. So this one is for those of us who are working with gratitude. Okay, so Shankaracharya says durlabham, it's very rare. Trayamevaitad devanugraha hetukam, this divine blessing. Okay, if you want the actual translation, I'll just read it out. There are three things that are rare indeed and are due to grace of God. Okay, so the term that is used in Sanskrit is anugraha hetukam. Anugraha means blessing. So we have to understand here that Shankaracharya is talking about three blessings. And what are those three blessings? First one is Manushyatvam. Manushyatvam means being born as a human, the humanness. Okay, remember these. Second one is Mumukshutvam. Now, mumukshu is a very typical term that is ideally used in Vedantic tradition. Mumukshu means a human that has deep desire for liberation. Now, this is crucial because there are 7.5 billion humans, but not everybody is or has a deep desire for liberation. I am saying deep desire, okay? This word, this term mumuksha is not a lukewarm term, okay? This is a very, very strong term. Now, in philosophy, this is called locution. Now, I am going off tangent, but please excuse me. Locution, every term has something called as locution. Locution means that every term, every word will be filled with context and meaning. So, this term mumukshutva is a very, very specific term because it connotes deep desire. It is not a human that is recreationally spiritual. No. Mumukshu is somebody who is deeply a truth seeker. We cannot even say he is a spiritual person. Okay, that deep thirst for spirituality is something else of a completely different dimension, and that's why Shankaracharya says the first blessing is being born as a human. Means what? You have the intelligence to change your circumstances. Animals don't have that. But not just being a human is not enough, because sometimes you see humans suffer because of their own free will, suffer more than the animals. So that is not enough qualification, as they say, necessary and sufficient. Okay. So what is the second one? Mumukshutva, a human born with a deep desire of liberation. And the third one is beautiful, Mahapurusha Sanshrayah. Mahapurusha Sanshraya means the company or the association of somebody who is Mahapurusha, means in this case a very wise or enlightened or self-realized being. So remember, if you have these three blessings in your life, you don't have to crib about anything in life. Okay? Rest will come, as yogis would say. So what are they? I am saying it again. First, all of us here are humans. So thank God or whoever that thank you that I am human. Okay? Because I don't know if animals are attending my live session, but I hope not, or maybe they are welcome. Second one is, you are all humans with deep desire for liberation. So number two, you have the second blessing also. Now the third blessing, you have to decide you have or no. The Shansrayah means the association of a perfected realized master. Okay, these three are the blessings. So even if you have two of them, think of yourself as lucky, blessed, and never allow self-doubt or the other frivolities of life get you down. Okay? Now let's go to the next. Okay, this I have selected because of something that I want to talk about. Okay? And the point is, modalities will not bring you to the truth. Try to understand this. In the current popular understanding of yoga, we look at yoga as a set of modalities. Do asana, do pranayama, do this, do yoga nidra. But here Shankaracharya is repeating and telling us again and again that modalities will not bring you to the truth. Modalities will cleanse your mind, and that cleansing of the mind will present you to truth. Try to understand this. Modalities is not truth. I write many times on this. What we have been told yoga is techniques, but what yoga is truth. Understand this. There's a huge difference. Okay? So let's see what Shankaracharya says, verse number 6. Oh, sorry. Vadantu shastrani yajantu devan kurvantu karmani bhajantu devataha atmaikyabodhena vinapi muktihi na siddhyati brahma shatantare api. Okay, it's beautiful. Vadantu shastrani means no matter how many shastras or scriptures you read, yajantu devan, no matter how much prayers you do to the gods, kurvantu karmani, no matter how much work you put in, bhajantu devata, again, propitiate the deities, atmaikya bodhena vinapi muktihi, mukti, that means liberation will not happen without atmaikya bodha. Atma eka bodha. Atma aikya bodha means oneness with your true self. So Shankaracharya says, no matter how many modalities you practice, unless and until there is a complete oneness with your Atma, your true self, there will be no mukti. Even in now, hyperbole is one of the trademarks of Hindu scriptures or Asian scriptures. Brahma Shatantare api means even for 100 Brahma lifetimes. Now, one lifetime of Brahma is like some millions of years, okay? It's like some heavy number. So, Shankaracharya is saying, like, even after 100 Brahma's lifetimes, you will not self-realize unless you find total integration with your true self. And the reason I selected this shloka or verse is just to drive home the point that no modalities is going to bring us to the truth. You have to understand, yoga is realization. Yoga is not a technique. This is very, very important. Yoga is realization. Yoga is revealed. Okay? Yeah, you have to practice yoga, but then the yoga of realization is revealed. Okay? It happens, it's an inwardly phenomena. Great. Now next. Amrutatvasya nashasti vittenetyaiva hi shrutihi braviti karmano mukter hetutvam sphutam yataha. This is also beautiful. So, amrutatvasya na asha asati vittenetyaiva hi shrutihi. So, he says shruti, that means the scriptures are saying, or scriptures say that there is no immortality or self-realization by the means of riches. Okay, riches means, or here they have used the term vitta. Vitta may not only mean riches, but also means give and take, or trade, or conditionality. Okay, so Shankaracharya is saying that there is no immortality because of riches. You cannot buy yourself into self-realization. Such indeed is the declaration of the Vedas. Hence, it is clear that works cannot be the cause of liberation. Again, somewhere it is mentioning the same point, that practicing techniques is not going to attain liberation for you. You cannot buy yourself into liberation. Like if you are a rich person, it does not matter for your liberation. No, it reminds me of the line from Bible in Gospel of Matthew chapter number 19, I think. Somebody, a rich man, goes to Jesus and says, I want to follow you. How can I go to heaven? So Jesus says, give all your money away and come follow me. Okay, Gospel of Matthew chapter 19 verse 21. Now you see there's a lot of correlation, and this is something that we usually in the commercial yogic setup we don't understand, is there's a lot of dropping, letting go to be done on the path of yoga. And nobody really talks about. We've been told that yoga is a path of consumption and accumulation, but no, yoga is not a path of consumption and accumulation, at least from the traditional point of view. Yoga is a path of dropping and letting go. Vairagya. Okay? So, letting go is an integral and important part. Even Patanjali talks about it, right? Abhyasa vairagya bhyam tannirodha, Patanjali says. All right. Now, how do we do this then? So Shankaracharya says you can really attain detachment or vairagya by building your ability to reflect. Reflection So I will read out the next paragraph. Samyag vicharataha siddha rajjuttatva avadharana भ्रांतो ditama sarpa bhayad dukkha vinashini. Now there is some philosophical context here, but I will drop that context and just give you the meaning. By adequate reasoning. So the word used is vicharataha. So try to understand, I'll try to make it simple, okay? By adequate reasoning, the conviction of reality. Which reality? The truth, not this transient reality, okay? When you keep reflecting again and again about the nature of things around you, a time will come when you will hit a wall. And that wall will make you confront things. And that confrontation will lead to the truth. Okay, I'm just giving you a meaning of what Shankaracharya is saying. If I have to explain this term by term, it'll take 3 hours. So what Shankaracharya is saying is, hey, begin the process of reflection. Don't just allow events to just happen and things to go by. Reflect on what is happening to you. You know, like for example, just an example, Shankaracharya is not saying this. You had a breakup. Now what happens? You have a breakup and then you grieve and then, you come out of the grief and then, hey, I need to find another person, because I can't be alone. So then the cycle just continues. We don't really get about reflecting on why did I break up? Why did I behave myself like this in the relationship and so on? Now this was what I'm saying is, of course, from the practical point of view, but Shankaracharya is saying start building the ability of reflection. When you start reflecting one by one, you will realize the transient nature of things. And when you realize the transient nature of things, it will be easy for you to drop them. Okay? So, hope that is understood. So such person who is able to discriminate between transient and non-transient is called a viveki. Viveka means dispassion. Viveka means discretion. To know what is permanent and to know what is transitory. So such a person is called viveki, the one who has viveka, the one who has a strong discriminative faculty. So Shankaracharya says, vivekino viraktasya shama adi gunashalinaha mumukshoreva hi brahma jigyasa yogyata mata. So the term here, yogyata, means you could say capability in a way. Who is capable for realization of truth? Brahma jigyasa yogyata. Who is capable of realization of truth? Somebody who is a viveki, who has a mature discriminative faculty. So somebody who has a mature discriminative faculty is a viveki. Not just that, because you can use you can use a very, very mature discriminative faculty even to fool other people or in a selfish way. So just because he has a discriminative faculty doesn't mean he is ready for self-realization. No. So Shankaracharya uses another word, and it's a beautiful word, virakta. So virakta, V-I-R-A-K-T-A, virakta. Virakta means the one who is dispassionate about the coming and going of things in life. And this is a very, very important quality that needs to develop in a spiritual seeker. This is very crucial. For realization of truth, there needs to dispassion towards not life per se, but the complete up and downs of life. Okay? And that realization will make you step back. And that stepping back will really make you realize a lot of things. So, what Shankaracharya is saying is, who is ready for the absolute truth? The one who has prepared himself or herself by maturing the faculty of discretion and being dispassionate about transitory things in life. Okay, so to the next. I will just read out another 15 minutes. Okay. Okay, now this one very, very important. Okay, for all of us who are in this post-pandemic or pandemic situation, very crucial. Listen. Sahanam sarvadukhanam pratikara purvakam. Sahanam sarvadukhanam pratikara purvakam. Chinta vilaparahitam sa titiksha nigadyate. Means, bear afflictions, bear your suffering, or have the resilience to bear your suffering. Okay? Sahanam sarva dukkhanam pratikara purvakam. Basically means build so much, verse number 24. Okay? Basically build the resilience so much that the suffering will not affect you. And this is very crucial. So, sahanam, the Sanskrit word is sahanam. Even in Hindi, Marathi, Gujarati, in many local languages, they still use this term, sahan. Sahan means to bear. To bear the ups and downs of life, the sukha, dukkha. He is saying, sahanam sarva dukkhana. Bear your suffering. Make yourself so resilient that you have the power to bear the suffering, to go through it, because as somebody once said, the only way out is through. Only by passing through the suffering you will come to the other end. Doesn't mean you have to call suffering on you, but whatever suffering life gives naturally, you just build resilience to go through it, because there is realization beyond suffering. Okay, so this is very important, friends, and this he calls titiksha. Okay, Patanjali has also mentioned this as tapas. So those who are yoga teachers and yogis here, go back to your Yoga Sutra books and look at the definition of tapas. It's one of the Kriya yogas, tapaswadhyaya ishvara pranidhana. So that's how Patanjali says. All right, now a few more and then we'll wrap it up. No, it's beautiful. Actually, we can just wrap it up with this. Maybe two more, okay? Because they are important. Svatmanyeva sada sthitva mano nashyati yoginah vasananam kshayaschattah swadhyasapanayam kuru. Okay? Word by word. Svatmanyeva sada sthitva. Sthitva means establish. Sva atmanyeva. Sada means always. Be always established in the self alone. And what will happen with this? mano nashyati yoginaha. In this way, the yogi literally kills the mind. Okay, it's a way of saying it. Okay, so what is Shankaracharya saying? Shankaracharya is saying focus only on the true self. When you direct your complete attention only on the Atma or the true self, the mind that is causing trouble or causing suffering or showing illusion will just die away. And it's beautiful. So Shankaracharya is showing us the direction in which we need to focus our effort, and that direction is focus only on the truth. Svatmanyeva sada sthitva vasananam kshayaschattaha. How to do that? By cutting off your desires. Now, understand this. Vasana are desires towards the vasanas are desires towards the transitory. Okay, because I hear many people say, "Oh, give up desires." Then wanting to self-realize is also a desire. No, you have to understand that when the yoga books say desire or vasana or kama and things like that, then it is always indicative of transitory attachments. Okay, so this is a locution that gets missed. So Shankaracharya is saying vasananam kshayaschattaha. Okay, so what is Shankaracharya telling us? So to get over the desires, and by getting over the desires, focus on the true self. Sva atmanyeva sada sthitva. Okay. Now the last one, because it's too hot in India and I think my mobile phone is getting foggy. So sorry, just let me wipe. Oops, something. Okay. All right. So last one, okay. Last one, I'll take this because this is again something that I keep telling the students again and again. So please listen. It's beautiful. Kshiram kshire yatha kshiptam tailam taile jalam jale sayukta mekatam yati tathatmanyatman vinmunihi. Kshiram kshire yatha kshiptam tailam taile jalam jale means as milk is poured into the milk. Understand this, okay? This is analogy. As oil is poured into the oil, as water is poured into the water, and when the milk poured into the milk unites with the milk and forgets its own nature, yeah, like you have a glass of milk, and a glass of milk you have to pour into, say, a bucket of milk. When you pour the glass of milk into a bucket of milk, then you cannot look into the bucket of milk and say, hey, look, there's a glass of milk floating away. No. When you pour the glass of milk into the bucket, the glass of milk loses its identity, right? So this is exactly what Shankaracharya is saying. As milk poured into milk, oil poured into oil, water poured into water becomes united and one with it. So the self-realized one who has realized the Atma becomes one in the Atma. It's very beautiful. So Shankaracharya is saying gradually through your meditative practice, a time will come when you will not have the false sense of identity. And when you completely destroy the false sense of identity, the false sense of subjectiveness, all that there remains is infinite consciousness. That glass of milk is no more glass of milk. It has merged into the bucket of milk. That glass of water that you throw in the ocean is no more glass of water. It becomes the ocean. It loses its identity. Okay? So this is the grand goal of yoga. And that's why as yogis we focus a lot on detachment, because to find the true self you have to lose the you. Okay? So understand, to find something bigger than you, you have to lose the smaller you. It's like this. You live in a small apartment, 50 square meter, and then you make a lot of money. Now you want to move into a 5,000 square meter apartment, right? But you cannot live in both homes at the same time. You have to let go of the smaller apartment to go and reside in the bigger apartment. Same way, you have to let go of the limited consciousness to allow yourself to merge with the universal consciousness. And that is why detachment is very, very important. And we have to start training with the detachments. And this is something that, I'm sorry I'm saying it again and again, but this is something that is not usually highlighted in our current yogic system. Okay? But this is very, very essential. Even Krishna has spoken about it. Even Shankaracharya, as I've said, speaks about it. And even Patanjali talks about it. Ishvara Pranidhana is what? Detachment. Vairagya, Abhyasa and Vairagya is what? Vairagya is letting go of your limited identities. The Raga, the Dvesha, all those, Panchakleshas you must have studied, right? Asmitas. Unless you drop your asmitas, how will you realize the Swarupa, as Patanjali would say, the true self? So, allow your yoga practice, whatever you call practice, to simplify your life and to reduce the whole load of identities that we carry on our head. That's it. I mean, I can go on and on, but I want to stop. So, I am no one to answer the questions on Shankaracharya, because honestly, these are the answers to these questions. You'll have to find them yourself. Because these books, though they are philosophical books, I call them indicative. They indicate. Yeah, it is knowledge, but it's an indicative knowledge. It's like you have a brochure of a ski resort in Switzerland. Just because you see the brochure doesn't mean you are gone there. So treat the scriptures as indicative and work on yourself and drop your identities and merge with the self, as Shankaracharya would say. Okay, so thank you and bye bye. Thank you for taking a tour with me into this. Bye. So let's do the Shanti mantra and finish. Join your hands. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you. Bye.